listeners. And
Oh, ramp.
So actually,
Yeah.
while we have you here, we have this opportunity since we don't normally get to interview people that won. I guess, like overall, like give me your thoughts like of the tournament and like the factions you played and like, just kind of give me like what was your overall like experience at this tournament at least. Seeing as usually like the Songhai comes out of nowhere and shanks you, but this time you were able to survive.
Yeah, that was a surprise. I think most of my wins actually, like the key wins, hinged on the deck that I used in the first and second game against Calreal, and I feel like that deck just actually carried me through the tournament. And as for matchups and certain things that I ran into, hold on, I need to mute myself on TeamSpeak. People are giving me A's, so hold on. Let me see here. Yo, give me a sec. I gotta do an interview, guys. Okay, sorry about it. Okay. So, so I actually got the whole gamut, every single faction except for Vitruvian, I think. I played a Mirror, played a Lionar, and then that Calreal, and then yeah, I played against every faction except for Vet. Although I had lots of decks prep for Vet. Vet feels like one of my easier matchups. But as far as like what actually like MVP for the whole tournament, besides that one deck that like, well, okay, if all else fails, I got this as a failsafe. The Pandora actually, like I kind of YOLO crafted Pandora at the last second, and just kind of like gave it a whirl. And once I noticed, like depending on what kind of tech they had, I would put Pandora or like put the Pandora deck in or out. Right, in a set anyway. When I realized like that their tech is lined up for a certain archetype, I just play the other one if I can. And especially against like Songhai or something like that, where I know that they're going to put lightnings in the deck, so I just put in like you saw that there was Veil Hunters.
Yeah.
In some that's because it survives Ghost Lightning. So it's kind of like a tech weenie, I guess you could say, and it pings off Pumbaa after it hits me in the face, etc. Like it saves me a lot of health and ends up either getting nuked or like something happens to the card that saves me more than its value in mana. So I'm totally happy with that. So the deck felt pretty good whenever I was able to use it. It's very dangerous, I would say, to run Pandora in certain factions, just because like you have the chance of just dying if you play it. Especially against like Songhai, you could just get 100 out if you play it on turn 6. And it wasn't particularly useful in my first game against Song, if I recall. But the second one, it carried pretty hard. Or I had two of them, something crazy.
Yeah. The first one he Onyx Bear sealed it pretty much right away, but yeah.
So then I got a read on his tech, and that's why on the third game, like he had these Heaven's Eclipses and Onyx Bear Seals in his hand that he couldn't get rid of. Against my Jax deck, even I realized that he might not be running that many copies of Lightning, because there were turns where he could have just dumped Lightning to finish off like 3 health guys. I'm just paying a lot of attention to like how the sets are going to see what their tech is. The biggest one was in the finals. I noticed the Calreal wasn't running Lightning Storm or Plasma Storm.
Yeah.
Just like I had a very strong feeling that he wasn't, so I switched to the Pandora deck, which basically like the biggest weakness to Pandora is Lightning Storm or Plasma Storm. So once I realized that he wasn't going to be able to deal with Pandora carried really hard. So I guess TLDR, I abused the format. Was able to switch decks on the fly, like try to pay attention to what my opponents are playing and play around that. Like I kind of knew that Calreal was running that Oculus deck, and I was like, okay, well, I can't really play any standard deck into like standard Abyssian deck into it. So I was like, all right, Curse of Agony and see if I can kill him off. The one where I set up lethal and he egg morphed his own guy was pretty sick though.
Yeah,
like
that was sick.
You probably would have like egg morphed or mana burned it if that were to happen pre-turn, but I forced him to have the mana to do that, as opposed to actually pushing his win condition. I was also dancing really hard in one of those games around like 14 to 17 health, because 14's double claws, and made sure to block something, or to like try to block as many turns as I could too, so that double claws itself wouldn't kill me. He would need like double claws and a spell, which would be impossible for him to cast given how much mana he would need. So I guess that's the other part of that. But so Tracer MVP, Pandora MVP, and Agony spell combo deck MVP. tournament, I suppose. And I'm really happy I didn't lose the song. But the one game I lost was like 22
Oh,
health to nothing. I was like, all right. So,
yeah, we were casting that one.
yeah,
And we were like,
and it's not just like 20. And okay, that one was one of like the easier cases of it, where it's like, oh, I only got one shot on turn 16. Nice. Whereas like, and I was in complete control of the game from like the beginning, and couldn't win anyway. Frustrates me to no end.
Yeah.
At least it was only 22 damage, and it was only 22 damage at turn 16, as opposed to 32 damage on turn 3.
Yeah.
So, you take what you can get.
Yeah.
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
If you think that's the correct way of going about it, then I will.
I'm gonna stay optimistic, right? Like, I'm like,
I mean, it's just like my assumption that as soon as like Vitruvian hits a core, I'm dead because they're gonna time Maelstrom, then they're gonna Mana Forger time Maelstrom, then they're gonna Mana Forger time Maelstrom, then they're gonna Lore Master time Maelstrom, Lore Master time Maelstrom, Lore Master time Maelstrom, and I should probably be dead. You know?
Yeah. I may or may not have done this or similar things to.
I mean, there's a reason I think about it, right?
Yeah. I mean, those decks actually really appeal to me, sad as it is, because it's like, I feel like it's a very abusive type of deck where, like, you really stretch out, like, how much a deck can do in one turn. But at the same time, sometimes it takes a lot of forethought to decide, like, how you're going to fit your turns in. If I didn't have lethal in that Tracer turn, I was trying to think of, like, what I would need in order to win. But there were tons of things, but it depends on how much mana I needed. So, like, Dark Seed would kill. Things like that. So I just had to consider like what my chances were.
That was the Calreal match, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure I had it just because I had triple Mana Forger into right at the end. Didn't draw.
Yeah.
And I probably would have just killed him with the creature instead. But it's like, okay, well, read him and weep, I guess. But mostly playing decks that only involve me playing the game feels bad sometimes, but not really if I'm playing against some like Oculus super tech deck where I'm like, oh, thank God he doesn't have Plasma Storm. Because like there were turns where Plasma Storm would have just completely shut me out, where I had like Mana Forgers in the corner and stuff. And it was really funny too, because there's only so many ways that you can deal with the Veil Hunter as well. And he would have to use those. There was a turn where like he needed to War Beast my Pandora, and I just buffed the Veil Hunter so that he couldn't do War Beast on Pandora and kill Veil Hunter. So he just like ran and healed, so he lost the game. It's like heal himself for 10, but take 11 at minimum on the next turn, and then just like spread out and you're golden. But I guess that's the summary of that tournament for me. Oh, there was one though. Oh my God, I probably would have scrubbed out this tournament really fast. Against that Lionar player. Turn 1, Wisp. Turn 2, Ironcliff. Turn 3, Divine Bond. Game was over.
Oh yeah, he told me like after we saw the game that you won, and it looked pretty convincing for you. He was like yeah, I was really close to winning game 2, and like
He was insanely close to. Okay, he had two of them down, 2 Ironcliff down, and one of them was Zealed, and I was at 4 health at the end of the turn. I was like, okay. And he was at 4 health, so
yeah.
There was a card in the deck, if you can guess what it is, when you're completely screwed, but you need to deal 4 damage. But those were some insane games. I don't know, I had a lot of insane games today, but all I need now is some sleep and some gold from the tournament.
All right, man. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us, and congratulations again for winning DCT 5. So hopefully see you next tournament and see you around. Love watching you play, and congratulations.
Well, thanks. Always a pleasure.
All right.
Oh, by the way, I have a final question. Were you afraid you picked the wrong squad name deck?
Yes. I have 17 decks. And
why have you named them?
No.
Why have you 2 decks named the same thing?
No, because I'm basing it off of the number of spells and creatures in the deck. They all have different numbers of spells and creatures. I'm not even reading the name. That's why I didn't change it, because I was like, okay, this one's 22. It was 2218 or 2211. So it's like, all right, good to go. Or sorry, not. It must be 2218 or 2217 for the Pandora deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pandora was 2217, Cancer's 2019, Tokens is 2613, and those are like the big ones. Because Tokens is like punish them for not teching an AoE. So like in the first game against the Song guy, I was like, oh, he's got like Onyx Bear Seals and shit. Good luck with 2 Jaxes and all this other skinny bullshit. And I'm like, all right, well that's how I'll win that game.
Yeah, his Heaven's Eclipse on a Jax was pretty much the telling point of the entire match.
Oh yeah, that was some shit. And I also
he just didn't draw his Ghost Lightning. They were in and everything. It's so sad.
Yeah, I mean, I figured that the first Jax was safe into Ghost Lightning anyway because of how far away he was, and the second one would have been the kicker. But since he couldn't get the first one down, I was like, all right, second one's going down, YOLO. And by the time he drew the Lightning, it was already too late.
Yeah. Yeah, well, GG, man. That's going to wrap this up. And if anybody's watching this, you can check all these games will be loaded up to my YouTube by the end of tonight. Thanks again to Atlanta, everybody that came in and played in the tournament. You guys were super awesome getting this run through. Deceptical for joining us on the final cast and adminning all day like a boss. And then, of course, Mr. Cubes with his awesome, funny rants and renaming everybody that we cast.
Hey, man, that's my job. That is my job.
All right,
He's
well,
like Deceptical is not Deceptical. He's just deceptive. That's I mean.
Oh, right.
It's better than a lot of things.
Oh, you're in.
All right, well, with that,
find a name for Atlanta.
if that, we're gonna be.
You call me Akratar. People call me Akratar all the time. I'm like, well, I'm Akratar owns. Like, usually he wins these tournaments, dude.
Oh, GG. But now it's you. Now it's you, Atlanta. You were the one that wins these tournaments.
Yeah. I do actually play pretty well in the Calriel set, but maybe it was a bit premature on the double agony though. But I had figured like if he took any sort of tempo, like it's either he dies on the next turn 100%, or he does some YOLO shit to it. And I'm like, all right.
Anyway, as always, Pato, thanks for hosting the tournament.
Oh,
thanks for allowing me to join and like sit here and be as dumb as always. And yeah, I hope to see another one in 2 weeks and to be there. I hope my hands is better so I can like actually play the game. Also, everyone, Vanar.